Well, hello, everybody. My name is Genesis Moore, and welcome to Single in the City, where we are having conversations about what it is to be a single in the city, but most importantly, being a millennial single in the city and what that looks like. This season, we are talking about being a high value single in Christ. And we've got a lot to talk about. We want to just say thank you to everybody that's been contacting us through social media, using our hashtag Single in the City, following us at Hope TV. We are so grateful for you guys, and we are excited to have a great show. I have my beautiful co-host coming in. There she is, Miss Tiara
Hey,
Berry. Hey, girl, can
good
you believe we
evening.
are at episode 4 already?
Wow. I feel like
We're halfway through the season.
we barely, what was it, hit the nail on the head. We have so much to still unpack. Conversations like this could go on forever, but I'm so excited to have this discussions.
Oh yeah, and what a beautiful discussion that we're having. So, guess we'll get right into it. Today, I'm asking for a friend. You know how we do.
Mhm.
Is
Hey,
love
friend.
transactional?
Of
What do
course.
you think?
Of course.
It is?
Of course love is transactional. And I think that
Okay.
it's a good thing. It means that it's an exchange of something. And you can always give love to something, but what is it? It's so good when you loving somebody and somebody loves you back. You know, you want that and somebody loves you back part to
It's
it.
like put
That's
the
we sing that part harder. It's so good and when somebody loves you back, you know? And I think and I think even when you see moms, right, for example, when they get pregnant and they're like, we're having a baby, first thing she says is, I'm going to be a mom. Somebody's going to make me something, and something is going well, not something, but the baby, the child is going to love you, and
Yeah,
you're gonna take on a role that you're excited to give the love, and they're gonna love you back because if you're having a baby or you're having a child, the first thing you think of is what I get to be. So of course
yeah,
it's transactional because even when I think the testament of love, when you think about like that quote unquote agape love, is like with God, like if He loves us so much, what He would do for us, be out of love, and that's transactional in itself. I would do this because I love you. I love you, so I would do this. Whether or not you love me back, I still love you. Even if it's just because, that just because is still a part of like a transaction in a sense. So of course, love is transactional, and it's a good
yeah.
thing.
I love that, and I think that even goes, deeper to the ultimate sacrifice of sending His Son Jesus Christ to the cross, for our
Mhm.
sins. That is, in fact, in using our words just to stay on topic, a transaction of the love, how much
Yeah.
God loves us. But I guess my other follow-up question, because I believe love is transactional as well, right? Now, this is what I told
Mhm.
my friends that I'm asking for. But I told them that, love is transactional and it comes in the base of a desire. So, like how you were talking about the mother that has the baby. And the first thing that she says is, oh my gosh, this baby is going to make me a mother. So many things, especially when it comes to dating and choosing a spouse or choosing someone that you might want to spend the rest of your life with, is based on a desire that that person feeds for you. Like you're desired in so many different ways. So then that kind of leads me to, um, if love is based in a desire and the things that we need, is that why you think sometimes people say, like, the love changed? Or do you think that people change, their desires change, and
Yeah.
that in turn makes love change?
Yeah. People's desires definitely, definitely change. Like somebody could you could love a lot of people love their children and not even want to be a parent. That's why you could have a mom who really really loves you, but they at grandma's house because they don't love being a mother. They just love the child that they made. And that's a part of their own things that they deal with. Is nothing that the child did. So in a relationship, there's nothing you could do to make a man. He could still love you, have love for you. But to an extent, I think sacrificial love is what a person is willing to sacrifice or give up out of love. And that's what we see with Jesus going to die on the cross. That was love. Like, oh, this is real love. Because I know he didn't wake up like, I can't wait to do this today. So it's the things that you would do. And it's not even necessarily, I don't want to use the word selfish, because I feel like selfish can be good in a lot of ways. I don't want to say like, oh, he's being selfish or she's being selfish, but what they're willing to do and not to do to see you happy could change over time. And I think that they might have love, but their capacity to love you and the way that you desire to be loved can change.
Okay. So in your definition, what is love?
I feel like we just opened up the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Remember when kids was in a classroom, he was like, "What's love?" I think love is all. I think it's all a feeling. I feel like it's so beautiful, and it's also so painful, and it's also so indescribable that putting it into words, at least in the English language, because if y'all know anything about the African diaspora, I feel like sometimes the English language is not the language that I feel like I need to be expressing myself with, but it's all I know. That it's hard to put it into words is what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's so much. It's so encompassing of like your heart and your brain and chemicals and the dopamine and serotonin, the reactions when you get when you're around people, and how babies love without even knowing anything, out of instinct for their mother, for this, and how long lasting love is. Even we talk about children, but even as we pass on, how we still love people who go on and pass away, and how we feel like they love us, or how God loves us. All we know is how to use love as a verb, but it's so hard to describe what that verb actually means, because it's so many different forms and shapes and types. And I think that's what makes love so special, because it's the one word we can't define.
I would agree with that. And I think love is something where it's so full of so many different words. When I think of love, I think of, charity. I think of patience. I think of kindness, generosity. I think of, loyalty. Loyalty is huge for me too. So all of those things are ways to show love. But, as I'm kind of on this life journey, I'm starting to feel as if love, in a sense, is a state of being. In a state of being that you have to have within yourself. Like a state of being, like a vibration that you have to be on. A spiritual wavelength that you have to be on. Yes, the frequency of love. And in that, as you become love, as you harbor love in your heart, you can express it better. And expressing it attracts love. But that comes from healing. That comes from, getting to know yourself. And not just through like the labels of like, everybody's got like a personality test, or, all these different things we call ourselves, oh, I define myself as this. And even now it's so many gender and, sex and all types of things on how people define themselves. But I just look at it as a state of being. And when you're in that frequency, how it is so much easier to attract a person that is kind of on that. But I look at love as more of a thing where it's a self thing. How we were talking earlier about being selfish. Like really being a person of love is like you have to have so much of it for yourself. You can do acts that, make people feel like you love them. But true love is really in yourself. It's in like what you think when you think of your creator, and how you live your life. I think
Right.
is the best definition of love. And all of that, you know, it's just like, you know, the cup running over. Like everyone else just gets to feel that because it's a part of who
Mhm.
you are. You know, so
Mhm.
that's something that I'm starting to really see and understand as, you know, life kind of goes on, and that it can take many shapes and forms. And
Yeah.
it can come in the form of desires, you know, like today I might want ice cream, you know, and somebody gives me ice cream that makes me feel like they love me, you know, if they take
Yeah.
time to get to know that. But tomorrow I might want chocolate, you know.
Hmm.
So I
I
think,
think. Oh, sorry.
yeah, keep going. I was just gonna say the desires that it feels different desires, which makes it, which we sometimes romanticize as true
Right.
love.
Every discipline starts with creating a habit. Find a plan that works for you. I know you can put a reminder in your phone, call so and so in 30 days. You can't use the excuse that, oh, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. You know, stuff people like to say. Nah, if you're not outgoing, right, you better get going because that's the only way networking works.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look,
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it out, y'all.
Hey y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.
I think with love, it's so easy for us to, and maybe because we're pessimistic by nature, I don't know, but it's so easy for us to know what love is not.
Yeah.
Like we know what love isn't. I might can't tell you what love is, but I know love isn't when
Thank
he ain't
it.
called or when he ain't show up or when I want to go out to eat and he ain't want to go out. Like we know what love is not. And
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes helps us understand what love is, because if you become the type of person that is grateful when people do things for you because you know that like certain people wouldn't or didn't show up, when those people show up, it shows like, oh, like this is love. This is what love is, you know? And I think a lot of times when we think about a lot of the stories in the Bible or what even happened or why did Adam and Eve eat the fruit or all of this, I think a recurring story is all about like you can mess up, and because you messed up, I can now show you grace. I can now show you love. I can give you this. I can pour out something to you that I think God would not have had to do he would not have to showcase love in that form, in the form of grace. And I feel like when you think about the goodness, and we go to church and we praise and we worship and we remember how he's been there, how he showed up in situations. And I think it's because we have an understanding of what love isn't, or how we felt without that. And I think the pouring of love is only understood when we have something to compare it to. So it's like we know what a good person is to us because we know what a bad person is to us. That's the knowledge of good and evil. You can only know something's good if you know what evil is. So I think that God's ability to continue to show us love is what helps us know how to love. That's why it's like, be Christ-like, love like Christ did, show up for people like that. If somebody's in a situation, this is how you show them love. But you wouldn't have to if they were in that situation. I mean, you could, but you know why it would mean a lot to show love and give love, because you know what it means to not be able to, or not have love, or to feel hate. So I think it's like when you know the balancing act, or what's on the scale on the other side, it helps you be able to love better.
Well, I completely agree. But girl, my homegirls had just texted me, and they said, so when it comes to being, if you're single in the city, for all of our viewers at home, to put it in a more worldly tone, when you're in the streets,
okay.
Do you feel that in your dating experience, some people maybe that you've dealt with, they use the desires that they think that you want, and use it against you as love? And maybe that might be their only way to show you that they kind of love them, even if it's not completely who they are. But they do it to make you happy. Would you still consider that love, or would you consider that you just trying to get over on it?
Who's getting over?
Whoever person you're dating. Yeah. Okay. So if they're dating and they like, okay, she took this test and her love language is gifts. So I'm gonna buy her a gift once a week, or whatever. But that might not be, genuinely how he loves, but because he knows that you like gifts, he'll try to prove his way in that manner. Do you look at that as like a true sign of love, or do you look at that as more so of you just trying to get me to like you?
No, I think you could love making someone happy, but I think that they need to know that other person's love language as well. Like, all right, I'll go, like, that's like when you come in the room and he's watching the game, and it's like, I don't really feel like watching basketball right now. I want to go on Netflix and let's do this. But I'll sit and watch it with you, if you want us to chill and do it and we can bond and you like it and you want to tell me Kyrie Irving stats this week, that's totally fine. Because I love you, I'll kick it with you and do that. But, when I want you to come with me to go get a pedicure, because I love to self-care and do that, you should want to do that with me, because it's the spending of time, and that's my love language, is I like to spend time. So I think that it's nothing wrong with making someone happy, but you have to know, like, am I happy making this person happy, if that makes sense. Because you shouldn't be like, oh, I bought you all of this, and now it's like, oh, but I don't feel like you love me even though I bought all of this for you. That shouldn't be the case either.
Well, see, that's where I think a lot of people, I've heard of a lot of couples struggling in that area, where maybe the way that person accepts love and they're more receptive to love is not always the way that person chooses to show love. And for them, realizing that, how you show love is, because I don't really even think that you can make another person happy. I think happiness is a self thing, but I think you can make a person feel good, or you can make a person feel like you like them, or, show effort. Like, I look at that and I'll be like, okay, he's trying to show effort. But in that same situation, when it comes to how you love and how that other person receives love, and vice versa, I think that's an important thing to understand, is it doesn't always mean that person's trying to, that you shouldn't accept it, if that makes sense. think a lot of women have a hard time doing that, like or even expressing what type of love it is that they desire to another person and putting these unrealistic expectations on it. And I don't think that's just for women. I think it's for men in general too. I think it's just for dating. And so, which leads me to my next question for you, friend, is so when it comes to love, do you feel like people use those expectations? So, for example, we'll stick with that, buying gifts. And if that person does that, they're consistent at it, they do that, and they've kind of built that as the expectation. Do you feel that certain expectations quantify as love? Like, so you expect that person to continue to do it throughout your life, throughout your marriage, and all that stuff. But what else is there that kind of solidifies it and taking it from, an act to it actually being a feeling of love? Like, what does that look like for you?
I think it's about how you pay attention and what you buy. Like, for instance, it's nice to get gifts, but if somebody picks out your favorite flower, or they be like, "Oh, I stopped at the Cheesecake Factory because I knew that your cycle was coming up, and I know you like cheesecake at this time of the month," and it's like, "Oh, like you really bought me some cheesecake," or it's like, "Hey, I know you normally go get your nails. You need your nails done, baby. Look, you need a fill-in. Like, I got you. Like, I'm gonna cash app you $50. Matter of fact, here's $100. Matter of fact, never mind." But you know what I mean? Like, they do this because they know your routine. They know what you like. They know what you're going through, how you feel during that time. They know what it would be that can make you smile. And that could be in the form of a gift. But like they say, it's the thought that counts. So when somebody gets something for you, that I think that you might be like, "Oh, he'll do it for me if I ask him." But it's the, hey, like, you didn't even have to ask me. I knew there's something you like, so I did it for you. To me, that's like, oh, that's love. That's like,
I like that. I really do. Now, my other homegirl just texted me and said, when you in the streets, sometimes you have a nice fellow do some things like that for you, and they have the thought, but they might not necessarily be your first pick. How do you handle that? Is that
it's about what you after. It's about what you after, because everybody ain't made for everybody, and that's okay. It could be somebody who loves you down and you just don't feel the same way, and you might like what they do for you, but if it ain't there, it ain't there, and you can't buy a heart. And so I think as long as you're transparent about the fact that I appreciate everything you do for me, but don't think that just because you did this, I'm obligated to look, act, and feel and treat you, like I'm your girl, then that's the part for your friend. Like, be truthful, be honest. If you still want to get what you get out of him, don't play yourself and say too much. But because you don't want to miss eat. I get that, girl. So play your cards right, but be truthful and honest, and don't lead people on too far along.
Yeah.
Don't have them shop for engagement rings when you just want to go out to eat.
It be real. It really do be like that though. In like the most Atlanta way I could say it be like that though. Where,
get up.
It's like, please don't make me do this to you, please. Okay, so I have this kind of like theory, right? That I think a lot of people, we've all seen it like throughout our lifetime because we're younger. It was just what used to be our parents, what is our reality on how many divorces and divorcees and kids that come from, two parent households going into separate households, things of that nature. So with the rate of divorce going up, how it's gone throughout our lifetime, would you say that a lot of people have mistaken love for expectations? So some people look at love as the expectation, and that you're going to forever be able to fulfill my life desires and needs. And when that expectation comes short or isn't met, in the way that that person would desire that causes them to feel like they are not loved. Is that, in your opinion, maybe some of the reasons why you think, because I believe you say your parents are not together, right?
Girl,
Are you parents?
definitely.
Mine are either.
Absolutely not. Thank
So
God.
look, we've experienced this, firsthand. So
Yeah.
in that, I ask again, like, do you feel like, even looking over just how history has come to a point, could the expectation of forever meeting a desire be the reason why a lot of people have gotten divorced? I mean, I know it can be, but I'd like for you to maybe share your viewpoints on that.
Yeah, the funny thing about like divorce or even marriage is it's the idea of forever. And the idea of forever is scary to a lot of people because everything in life is finite except this idea of marriage. Even when you say till death do us part, you'd be like, but I don't really want to die though. So like we really gonna be together forever. And we don't live our lives every day thinking about our mortality. So when we get with someone and we're with someone and we think like, oh, I gotta be with you until I die, but I don't really think about my mortality, it feels like forever. And most of everything in our lifetime, we know about the end. Like at my job, like I look at my 401k and I'm like early career professional, and I'm already like, okay, so how many years I got to do this, and how much am I going to have my 401k by the time I retire and I'm done? Or when we get a mortgage, it's a 30-year mortgage. Or when we go through school, we get to the 12th grade, then we go to college. If we want to be a doctor, how long that's going to take. So much of what we have, we know the lifespan, or the lifetime of it. Except marriage. When you marry someone, it's like, I'm really gonna be with you forever. And that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's beautiful and it should want to be, but I think a lot of the fairy tale aspect of marriage is misleading because we can recognize that there's chapters of everything in life, except within the chapters of a marriage, you change. Marriage isn't just the chapter. You go through life with a person. You go through being young. You go through getting older. You go through changing careers. You go through having kids and how that might change a person. You go through your mother's like, I'm looking at my dad like, wow, you're getting old. So it's like when you have to go through parents getting older, grandparents getting older, then you got to bury your loved ones. And that in itself, and then you get older and you don't get up as quick as you used to, and your back hurt now that you're 40. So I think you go through all of that, just life with a partner. Of course, each of you as individuals are going to change over the lifetime of a marriage. And I think that needs to be explored and appreciated. And that's why I see why people have couples counseling, because the person you marry is not the person that you sit next to 60 years later sipping orange juice. That's just not the same person. You've both gone through individual life experiences. You've also gone through experiences together, whether it be children or different things that you accomplished as a unit. But I think with marriage, we sell forever and we don't sell what forever really looks like. It's just the wedding and then, oh, they've been together 40 years. And it's like, it's a lot that goes into what's in between those two dates.
Today, we're going to be making some southern fried okra. I know you guys probably saying, ooh, I don't like okra, it's too slimy or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, the way we're going to deep fry this thing, you're not going to taste any slime. Let's go.
Hey, Dad, I need your help asking Jessica to prom.
Of course. Love is like the ocean. You have to tread the
Oh,
waters.
Dad, that's not the kind of help I needed. Hey, Jessica. Will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
We are still talking all about the season of fall.
Hey, Miss Cam. Hey, Miss Cam.
And I think with a lot of people, sometimes the expectation, even when we talk about what is love, it's like love does have an expectation attached to it. Of course, when you're talking about marriage, that's like a huge commitment that you walk into with someone, and the commitment is supposed to be forever. But I think for a lot of people, their expectations are built in their now and not who they're becoming. And I even have friends, where I tell them all the time, hey, you can't be so attached to who you are right now. It has to be somewhat more into like who you are becoming. And who you're becoming is what you see for your future and how you plan to see, your future with another person in your life. So I've even seen cases, which kind of brings me to another topic about like social media and what that looks like. How some people on social media are very much so, we talked about this, we're couples goals, we're this, that, and the third, and, we plan on being together forever. This is our love and Black love and love forever and all this other type of stuff. But it's like so based on the surface of what that person makes you feel now, the desires that they fulfill now. And in my opinion, like a lot of people from our age group, they kind of do base their lifelong desires on what they're getting now. And I think that's unrealistic, and it's also unfair to put those expectations onto another person without really having a true self-definition of what love is. Like if your love is patient, if it's kind, if it's generous, if it's all these different things, then it should have some flexibility in there. But I just think that, even just in our society and our culture, like we have no real room for grace. We don't allow a lot of room for flexibility. We don't allow a lot of room for forgiveness. We don't allow a lot of room for growth. And so the second that person kind of steps outside of that bounds of what we're used to, what we're accustomed to, it's like the whole thing crumbles. And I always say, people love through a lot of different things. I've known people that have loved through pain. They've loved through, addiction. They love through how they feel about one another when it comes to their physical, but never. And even in that, I always just say, whenever one person in that relationship decides to change and their desires change, that's when the relationship is over. And people get married based off of those things. So I think it just kind of, and I know we're wrapping up now, but I guess in my opinion, I just would say I'm learning to look at my own self-definition of love, what love looks like for me as a person, and the type of love that I give off. Not even just the type of love that I'm trying to attract, but just the type of love that I want to give, not just to somebody I'm dating, or somebody that I know or a friend, but people that I don't know. I think that is a part of being a Christian as well, is giving that love off to strangers and homeless people and people that you might feel like are less fortunate than you, but it should be a standard of love, you know, that we define within ourselves that we give off. And so, yeah, that's
no, that's good. And before we close, it's like with society and the way we learn love, it's so much that's taught to us, and then we see what happens within our homes. And I think a reason why divorce is so high now is another thing with society. I mean, now it's like, did y'all even get married? Or like something, it's like, what marriage? Like, we was just living together for 12 years. We ain't never married. And it's like, oh, y'all are like wifey this, you know, hubby that, but y'all ain't even, okay. So I think when it comes to people being together and you're like, they were married, and the reason why they left is societal, because when my parents, you know, were getting a divorce, I feel like a lot of times my mom's whole thing was like, well, I had you, so, you know, we wanted to make it work for the kids. And now, you know, some people be like, no, I ain't think about them kids. Like, I'm gonna go off and do my own thing. And look, babies, it's your new daddy. So now it's like, here your new daddy say, and they really be on that type of time, you know, forget the marriage, this your new daddy. And like, I'm like, whoa. Yeah. So I think a lot of it is societal based. You know, a lot of women, they making more money. They're not dealing with absent fathers. You know, they'll either have you up for child support, or they be like, you know what, don't call us no more, I got it. And they step up to the plate. And it's unfortunate, but I think that a lot of the way we see love, perceive love, and give love is out of survival. It's out of feeling like we got to do what we got to do. And I feel like that kind of breakdown of, you know, we can go into like the Black family and what that looks like for a 2-parent household. That's another story for a different day. But I think the overall breakdown of marriage has to do with the way we perceive what marriage is supposed to look like. And I think that if you actually get down to the nitty gritty of what do I want for myself? What do I see for myself? And do your goals and my goals align versus do we just surface level look good together? You could dress up a pig and it's still a pig. You can make things look good, but it's still going to be what it is. So I think when it comes to marriage, you have to ask those questions like, do you want kids? What tax bracket do you want to be in? Where do you want to live? At what age do you want to retire? Do you value work or do you want to travel more? All of those things you have to ask somebody, you know, when you meet them, when you get engaged, when you get married, ask them again. And even then, things are still subject to change. But I think we have to think about the long term again. Like, this is forever. It's not like when this ends, it ends. But I feel like because of what we've seen so much go through in terms of like trauma, just in terms of what marriage has been like in our community specifically, people are more willing to choose themselves over making something work. And you can't always blame them for it, because you can see why. And I can see why when I think about marriage. I'm like, well, I mean, I would love my husband, but if it got that bad and I'm depressed and I don't want to be there, or vows were broken and things happen, like, I'm going to go on and do what makes me happy. And it's sad, but that's just based off of what I encountered and deal with. And it might be some other person that's like, no, you're supposed to stick it out and ride it out, because to death do you part. You said this in front of God. And it's just experiences changes people's points of view and what they feel like their threshold is. And love is supposed to be continuously painful. You might go through things with somebody, but your life ain't supposed to be you always going through something. If you always going through something with the same person, something has to change. It might not even have to result in divorce, but something itself has to change, because you can't live miserable. So I said all that. Yeah.
No, I was saying, I think you said it where you were like, do the definitions of how you value the love within yourself and how that person values love within themselves, do they align? And that's a core value. That's a person at their core, not their mask, not who they pretend to be. So, and normally, you know, even statistically speaking, the core of a person doesn't really change that much over time. You know, they might go through things in different situations, but the core of how they, perceive love by the time, they're ready to marry, hopefully. And, how what you say is your definition of love, if they're in alignment, that in theory should be a great baseline for a good partnership.
Exactly. Because you'd love experiencing them. Because a lot of people be like, oh, you belong to me and I belong to you. No, I enjoy you so much. That's what love is. I don't have to be here, but I really like being here. And that's what keeps somebody around. That's what wants somebody want to come home to you every day and eat with you every day and, watch TV with you every day forever. That willingness to experience someone versus feeling like I have to. That's what love is. When you don't need to do it, but you really want to do it, that's love.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, we've used up all our time, so that was a beautiful conversation.
In the meantime, we single in the city, so hit us up.
We try to figure it out, everybody. So thank you guys so much for tuning in again to episode 4 of Single in the City. I'm Genesis Moore, and this is my lovely co-host. Yes, ma'am. Yes. And we want to thank you guys for participating. Please go online, follow us at Hope TV. Also, make sure that you are using the hashtag Single in the City with all of your questions, things that you might want to hear us talk about in the next couple weeks. Any comments that you may have on things that we've already talked about, we want to hear from you guys. We're just so happy that you're here. And also, we want to see what are your life experiences and what do you think love is. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.